In the dark silence of space beyond Mars and the cold ring of Jupiter, something enormous was being built. It was hidden behind clouds of electromagnetic storms and coded satellite interference. No alien sensor could clearly see it, and that was exactly how humans wanted it. The project was called Titan Dawn. Every scientist, engineer, and worker involved knew what it meant. They were building something that would decide if Earth lived or vanished. For years, humanity had watched as the Celestials, ancient alien beings who called themselves the gods of the galaxy, spread their rule across the stars. They moved like light through space, and every world they touched fell silent in surrender. Planets that resisted disappeared. Armies, no matter how strong, had never stopped them. Until now, the Celestials had ignored Earth. Humans were considered too young, too wild, too primitive to matter. But all that changed when human explorers reached the edge of celestial territory and discovered what had happened to hundreds of enslaved species. The reports were horrifying. Whole civilizations were forced to worship the Celestials as divine rulers. Those who disobeyed were not destroyed. They were erased as if they had never existed. That was when Earth's leaders made their choice. They would not bow. Under the command of Commander Aaron Vale, Earth's Defense Command began work on a secret ship. A ship larger than any vessel ever built by man. They called it the HTV Leviathan, the first Titan-class battleship. Commander Vale stood on the observation deck of the Lunar Command Station, staring at the massive holographic image of the ship in orbit. Even in its incomplete form, Leviathan was breathtaking. Its length was over 40 kilometers. Its armor was layered with neutronium, harvested from a collapsed star. Inside its heart was the quantum core, an energy system capable of generating power equal to a small sun. "Status report," Vale said calmly, his voice deep and steady. Chief Engineer Alina Cho, standing beside him, responded, "Main thrusters installed. Quantum cores stable. Shield arrays are ready for testing, but the reactor synchronization is only at 78%. Vale nodded. "Then push it to 90 by dawn." "We don't have the time to wait," Alina sighed. "Commander, with all respect, this ship isn't ready for battle." "Not yet." "I know," he replied quietly. "But the Celestials won't wait either." He turned back toward the holographic display. The image of the Leviathan rotated slowly, its metallic hull shining against the stars. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Alina asked softly, "Do you think this will work? That one ship can stand against them?" Vale's eyes were sharp as steel. "If it doesn't, then humanity won't have another chance." Far away, beyond the edge of the Sol system, in the endless darkness of space, the celestial fleet moved like glowing angels through the void. In the grand throne ship Aurelian, a being of light named Seraph Kor stood before a council of other radiant figures. Their bodies shimmered like suns, their eyes filled with cold wisdom. "Humans rise," one said, voice echoing through the chamber. "They build a weapon in secret." "Let them build," another answered. "When it is done, they will present it to us as tribute." But Seraph Kor did not share their calm. He had watched the humans for centuries. He had seen how they fought among themselves, yet still managed to survive. He had seen how they turned their weaknesses into strengths. "They are not like others," Seraph Kor warned. "They are not bound by fear. They will fight us even knowing they cannot win." The council laughed, the sound like bells of thunder. "Then they shall learn," said the oldest of them, the High Celestial Orion, "that defiance against gods only brings silence." Back in the Sol system, the construction of Leviathan continued day and night. Thousands of workers lived in orbital stations operating drones and machinery. Cargo ships from Earth carried metal, fuel, and food. The entire human race had united for the first time in history. No nations, no borders. Only one goal: survive. On Earth, ordinary people watched the skies with pride and fear. They didn't fully understand what was happening, but they felt it. The sense that something extraordinary was coming. Children drew pictures of giant ships flying through space. Soldiers trained harder than ever before. Scientists worked until they collapsed from exhaustion. Everyone knew the same truth. If humanity fell, no one would rise again. Inside Leviathan's command bridge, Commander Vale inspected the control panels. Rows of glowing blue interfaces filled the room. The ship's main AI system, EVA-9, spoke softly in a calm, human-like voice. "Commander Vale," EVA said, "core temperature is stable. Estimated power output is beyond expectation. Vale smiled faintly. Good. Let's give the galaxy a surprise. He walked toward the viewing window, a transparent alloy stronger than diamond. Beyond it he could see Earth in the distance, a blue and white gem floating in the dark. That was what they were fighting for. Not for power, not for conquest, for home. 2 days later, the first test of the quantum core engine began. The power surge was so strong that several moons around Jupiter registered seismic activity. Deep space probes recorded a burst of energy brighter than the sun. The Celestials noticed. Within hours, the Aurelian fleet turned its course toward Earth. When the news reached Commander Vale, he didn't flinch. He had expected this. How long until they arrive? He asked. 72 hours, EVA replied. Their ship is enormous. Its mass reading is beyond current measurement. Vale nodded slowly. Then we have 3 days to finish a ship meant to fight a god. He called every division chief to the command deck. Holograms of engineers, pilots, and scientists flickered to life around him. This is it, Vale said. They are coming. We will not hide. We will not kneel. We finish the Leviathan now. Across the holograms, tired faces turned determined. Hands that had built, programmed, and welded for months straight now worked with renewed fire. The final night before the test launch was quiet. The stars above were cold and clear. Commander Vale stood alone in the docking bay, looking at the massive hull of Leviathan. Its armor glowed faintly with the light of 1,000 active systems. He placed his hand on the metal. It was warm, alive with power. You'll be the hope of our kind, he whispered. As the countdown reached 0, the Titan-class battleship Leviathan came alive. Engines ignited with a soundless roar. Rings of blue energy formed around the ship, bending space itself. Shockwaves rippled through the asteroid belt. From Earth, people saw a new star appear in the night sky. It was not a star, it was Leviathan, the first Titan of humanity. Its systems aligned, its shield shimmered like an ocean, and its cannons glowed with waiting power. On the bridge, Commander Vale stood in his command chair. EVA status, all systems operational, quantum core stable, ready for flight. Vale looked ahead into the darkness. Then let's show the gods what humans can do. The Leviathan moved forward for the first time, slow and majestic. Space itself seemed to tremble as the human ship began its journey. But at the same moment, far away, a golden light appeared on the edge of the solar system. The celestial ship Orion had arrived. From its throne, Seraph Kor watched the human vessel through divine sensors. His glowing eyes narrowed. This is the human weapon, he said softly. Impressive. For mortals. He raised his radiant hand and a wave of light expanded from his ship. It was not a message. It was a warning. Bow, children of Earth, the celestial voice echoed through every human frequency. Surrender your creation and your world will be spared. Commander Vale listened in silence. Then he gave his answer, calm and clear. No. A long silence filled the stars. Then Seraph Kor's voice darkened. Then your defiance will end with your extinction. Commander Vale looked out the window at the endless black. His face was calm, but his heart was fierce. EVA, he said quietly. Prepare the graviton lance, the AI responded. Confirmed, Commander. And so, the first human Titan faced a god. The universe held its breath. Humanity was no longer silent. Humanity was ready. The silence of space had never felt heavier. For a few long seconds, every human on every ship, every station, and every city on Earth held their breath. The celestial ship Orion had arrived. It was not a ship like humans understood. It looked more like a golden city floating in space, its surface glowing with rivers of light. Its towers reached into the void like shining spears, and its hull seemed alive, made not of metal, but of pure energy. The sensors aboard the HTV Leviathan could barely comprehend its structure. The readings kept breaking, rewriting themselves again and again. Inside Leviathan's command bridge, Commander Aaron Vale stood motionless, watching the image of the Aurelian on the main display. His officers worked quickly at their stations, their voices calm but tense. Commander, said EVA, the ship's AI, the celestial vessel is broadcasting a message across all human frequencies. Vale nodded. Put it through. The air inside the bridge shimmered, and suddenly a figure of light appeared, tall, radiant, and almost beautiful. His body shone like a star, his face calm and cold. "I am Seraph, Herald of the Celestial Council," the being said, his voice echoing like music through the ship. "Your world has broken the sacred order. You have built a weapon forbidden to your kind." Commander Vale's jaw tightened. "Humanity built this ship to defend itself." Seraph's golden eyes narrowed. "Defend? There is no danger to you, human. The Celestials bring order, peace, and eternity. You should be grateful." "Peace without freedom isn't peace," Vale said firmly. "It's control." Seraph tilted his head slightly as if curious. "You think yourself brave. You think your machine gives you power. You do not understand what stands before you." He extended his arm, and in the distance the Aurelian began to glow brighter. Waves of golden energy flowed from its surface, spreading across the black of space. "Submit," Seraph said, his voice soft yet heavy with power. "Bow and your world will live. Resist, and your world will be forgotten." Vale looked around the bridge at his officers, humans of every color, background, and nation. He saw fear, yes, but also something else. Determination. He faced the hologram of the Celestial. "Earth will not bow," he said. The hologram flickered, then vanished. For a moment there was silence. Then Eva's calm voice spoke. "Commander, the Aurelian is charging its primary weapon." Outside, the stars vanished behind a wave of golden light. The energy grew brighter, forming a massive beam that stretched toward Leviathan. On Earth, satellites melted as the energy swept past. Space stations turned dark. On the Leviathan's bridge, alarms rang. "Shields at maximum," cried Lieutenant Mara Dune. Vale gripped the command chair. "Hold it steady." The golden beam struck. The entire ship shook violently. Every surface glowed blue from the pressure. The shield screamed under the energy load, bending and twisting. Panels burst, sparks flew, and the sound of stress echoed through the hull. "Shields holding at 60%, shouted Mara. "Compensate with secondary arrays," Vale ordered. For 20 full seconds, the Leviathan fought against a force that could destroy a planet. Then as suddenly as it began, the beam faded. Silence returned. A deep vibration still hummed through the decks. Eva's voice came again. "Damage minimal. Shields recharging. Quantum core stable." Commander Vale exhaled slowly. "We survived." "Indeed," EVA replied, almost surprised. Across the bridge, the crew broke into quiet cheers. But Vale didn't smile. His eyes were still locked on the golden city ship ahead. "They'll fire again," he said. In the celestial throne chamber aboard Aurelian, Seraph looked at his attendants in disbelief. "The human vessel still stands." "Yes, Herald," one replied. Their shields absorbed the blast. "Impossible," murmured another. "No mortal technology can resist the light of purity." Seraph stared at the blue glowing shape of the Leviathan. "They built something beyond their limits. They used power they should not possess." He raised his hand again. "Then I will crush them myself." Back on the Leviathan, Commander Vale prepared for counterattack. "Eva," he said. "Ready the graviton lance. Target the center of the Aurelian." Eva's voice responded with perfect calm. "Weapon charging. Power levels rising. Recommend full shield focus to forward arc. Do it." Outside, the Leviathan's nose began to glow with a deep blue light. The graviton lance, humanity's most advanced weapon, used quantum gravity fields to compress energy into a single unstoppable beam. The crew worked in silence. Everyone knew what this meant. If this failed, Earth would fall. "Lance charged," EVA said. "Awaiting your command." Vale looked at the stars. He could see Earth in the distance, small and fragile, floating in the dark. "For every world they destroyed," he whispered. "For everyone who was silenced." Then louder. "Fire!" A beam of pure white energy erupted from the Leviathan's front cannons. It crossed space faster than thought, piercing through the dark like a sword of light. When it struck the Aurelian, the entire region of space seemed to shatter. Golden armor rippled. Waves of power tore through the celestial hull. Explosions of light burst across its surface. For the first time in galactic history, a celestial ship screamed. Inside the Aurelian, alarms echoed. Celestial attendants fell to their knees as cracks spread across the golden floors. Seraph raised his hands, trying to hold the energy back. But the human weapon was too strong. His voice thundered through his ship. "Impossible! How can mortals wield this power?" He barely managed to stabilize the energy field. The Aurelian dimmed, its glow weaker, its divine armor scarred. For the first time, a god bled light. On Leviathan's bridge, cheers erupted. Engineers hugged each other, tears in their eyes. "We hit them," shouted Mara. "We actually hit them." Vale allowed himself a small smile. "EVA status? Target's energy output has dropped by 40%. Their shields are fractured." Vale nodded. "Good, keep scanning." "They're not done yet." But while the humans celebrated, deep inside the Aurelian, Seraph Core stared at the data flowing around him. "These humans," he whispered, "they fight with madness and hope." He could feel something strange in them, something no celestial possessed. Not raw power, but will. The unshakable will to survive, to stand even when they should fall. It unsettled him. "Retreat?" asked one of his lieutenants softly. Seraph Core's golden eyes blazed. "No, I will remind them what gods are." He stretched his arms, summoning energy from the stars themselves. The light around him grew brighter and brighter until it filled the throne room like fire. On the Leviathan, EVA spoke suddenly. "Commander, new energy reading detected. Celestial power levels rising beyond known limits." Vale frowned. "He's transforming." A brilliant light appeared outside. Seraph Core's ship changed shape, spreading its wings of light wide. His voice echoed through space, louder and colder than before. "You are strong, humans," he said, "but strength without submission is useless. I will end you myself." Then he fired again. This time the beam was not golden. It was white-hot, mixed with the light of dying stars. It hit the Leviathan with unimaginable force. The ship shook violently. Several decks went dark. "Systems overloaded. Shields at 30%, shouted Mara. "Stabilize the core." Alina yelled from engineering. "If it fails, we all go with it." Vale gritted his teeth. "EVA, divert all auxiliary power to forward shields." "Done," the AI replied instantly. The ship trembled again. The crew struggled to stay upright. But even under that overwhelming power, the Leviathan did not fall. After what felt like eternity, the beam faded. The Leviathan drifted in space, smoke rising from its damaged hull. But it still lived. Seraph Core stared in disbelief. "No, how?" Then through the static of communication waves, a single human voice answered him. "Because we have something you don't," Commander Vale said. "We fight for home." The Aurelian fell silent. Seraph Core watched as the massive human ship slowly turned its cannons again toward him. The light of Earth reflected on its hull like a promise. In that moment, the Herald of the Celestials understood something terrible. Humanity would not stop. They would fight until the end. And that realization, more than any weapon, made him afraid. Inside the Leviathan, Commander Vale took a deep breath. The battle was not over, but something had changed. For the first time, the galaxy had witnessed what humans could do. He looked at the holographic map of space. Countless systems, countless civilizations watched this battle from afar. "They're all watching us," said Mara softly. "Good," Vale replied. "Let them see what happens when humans stand together." The bridge was quiet. Only the hum of power filled the air. EVA's voice came gently. "Commander, message incoming from Earth Command. They say the entire planet saw the energy burst. The people are cheering." Vale closed his eyes, feeling both pride and sorrow. "Tell them the battle isn't over. The gods will return." He opened his eyes again, hard and determined. "But next time," he said, "we'll be ready." The message spread faster than light. Across the galaxy, signals bounced between thousands of stars, carrying the impossible truth. The humans wounded a celestial. On distant worlds, beings of every kind stopped what they were doing to listen. Miners paused their drills on red deserts. Traders froze in orbiting stations. Even slaves in celestial factories whispered the same words with disbelief and hope. The gods had been hurt. For the first time in 10,000 years, the universe had seen that the Celestials could bleed. Inside the command bridge of the HTV Leviathan, the atmosphere was heavy but alive. Sparks still flickered from damaged panels. Engineers moved quickly, repairing circuits and restoring power. Commander Aaron Vale stood near the main viewing window, watching the Aurelian retreat into the distance. It glowed weakly now. Its golden light dimmed. "They're leaving?" asked Lieutenant Mara Dune, her voice filled with disbelief. Vale nodded slowly. "For now, they didn't expect to lose." "EVA, The ship's AI spoke calmly, her holographic form flickering beside him. Commander, analysis suggests the Aurelian has sustained 48% structural damage. Celestial energy fields are unstable. It will need time to recover. Good, Vale said. That gives us time too. He turned to the crew. Status on our systems? Chief Engineer Alina Cho responded, her uniform covered with grease and dust. Hull integrity at 80%. Shields regenerating. The quantum core is steady, but we burned through half our graviton reserves during the last attack. Vale nodded. Then we'll find a way to refill them. We always do. He looked out again at the stars, his voice quieter. We've just declared war on gods. There's no turning back now. The next day, every human communication channel was flooded with one message. The Leviathan stands. Earth still lives. The planet erupted in joy. Cities cheered. Bells rang. People hugged in the streets. For once, all humanity felt the same thing. Pride. But deep beneath the celebration, fear remained. Everyone knew the Celestials would return, stronger than before. At the United Terran Command in Geneva, leaders from every nation gathered. Generals, scientists, diplomats, all watching the massive holographic projection of the Leviathan. This victory has bought us time, said Admiral Cato. But it has also painted a target on us. The Celestial Council will come with their full force. Commander Vale's face appeared on the screen from the Leviathan's bridge. Then we prepare, he said firmly. If they come for Earth, they'll find a world ready to fight. Over the next few weeks, humanity moved like never before. Factories on Earth, Mars, and the Moon worked non-stop. Every shipyard was repurposed for war production. New Titan-class vessels began construction, smaller than the Leviathan, but built with its same core design. Engineers around the world studied the Leviathan's battle data. They learned from every error, every weakness. Humanity evolved faster than ever before. At the same time, something else began happening. Alien signals started arriving. One by one, messages came from distant corners of the galaxy. Transmissions in broken codes, some thousands of years old, others newly formed. We saw your battle. You fought the gods and lived. Teach us how. Some of the senders were old enemies, others total strangers. But they all shared one thing: hope. 3 weeks after the first battle, a fleet appeared near the edge of the Sol system. At first, Earth's defense forces prepared to fire, but the ships didn't attack. Their hulls were dark and cracked, marked with ancient scars. They belonged to the Voron, a species once enslaved by the Celestials. A single Voron vessel approached Earth's orbit. Its captain, Kael'Tor, requested an audience with Commander Vale. The meeting took place aboard the Leviathan. Kael'Tor was tall and lean, his skin a shade of silver gray that shimmered under the ship's lights. His eyes were sharp, and his voice was calm when he spoke. You humans have done what no one dared in 1,000 generations, he said. You faced the Celestials and survived. You changed everything. Vale studied him carefully. If you're here to congratulate us, you've come a long way for nothing. The war isn't over. Kael'Tor smiled faintly. I didn't come for words, I came to help. He placed a small device on the table. It projected a hologram of strange symbols glowing softly. This is celestial code. Old. From before their rise. It contains data on their power systems, their weaknesses. Vale frowned. Why give this to us? Because you fight for all of us, Kael'Tor said simply. The Celestials rule through fear, but fear is cracking now thanks to you. Vale nodded slowly. Then fight with us. Kael'Tor's eyes brightened. The Voron will stand with humanity. The gods will know fear of their own. Within days, news spread across the stars again. The Voron have joined the humans. More species followed. The Thorin, the Dalak, the Shai, and others long hidden in the dark corners of the galaxy. A rebellion began to form, centered on Earth. Meanwhile, the Celestial Council gathered on their radiant throne world, a planet made of light itself. Seraph Kor knelt before the high celestial Vorian, his form dimmed from his earlier wounds. You failed, Vorian's voice thundered. A god wounded by mortals? You bring shame to eternity. Seraph Kor bowed his head. Forgive me, my lord. I underestimated their will. They fight with madness, but also with purpose. Purpose? Vorian hissed. They are insects. Perhaps, Seraph Kor said quietly, but insects that can sting even gods. Vorian's eyes glowed brighter. Then burn them all. Bring the full fleet. I want their sun extinguished. As you command, Seraph Kor replied. He rose, light gathering around him again. But deep inside, something else flickered, a strange doubt he could not silence. Back in the Sol system, preparations for the next war accelerated. The Leviathan now orbited Saturn, surrounded by new fleets under construction. Its hull was repaired and reinforced. Engineers had upgraded its weapon systems, including a new prototype, the quantum pulse cannon, a weapon capable of bending energy itself. In the command room, Vale stood with Alina and Kael'tor, reviewing maps of celestial space. They'll come with everything they have, Vale said. If we wait here, they'll crush us. Then we take the fight to them, Kael'tor said calmly. Vale looked up. You mean into their own territory? Yes, Kael'tor replied. The celestial domain is not infinite. Their power is strongest near their throne world, where they draw energy from a central source, the core star. Destroy that, and their light will fade. Vale stared at the map, thinking. That would mean flying straight into the heart of their empire. Alina crossed her arms. We wouldn't come back. Vale smiled slightly. Then we'll make sure it counts. He turned to the crew. Prepare the Leviathan for deep space travel. We're going to show the gods what it means to fight humanity. Days later, the fleet gathered around the Leviathan. Human ships, Voran cruisers, and vessels from other allied worlds filled the void, forming the largest mixed armada the galaxy had ever seen. From the Leviathan's bridge, Vale looked out at the sea of ships. Their engines glowed like stars. EVA's voice came softly. Commander, fleet synchronization complete. All ships report ready. Vale took a deep breath. Then it begins. He opened a communication line to every ship, every soldier, every being in the fleet. This is Commander Aaron Vale of Earth, he said. We are not gods. We are not perfect. But today, we stand together, for every world that was broken, for every voice that was silenced. We will not kneel. We will not fade. He paused, his voice steady but filled with emotion. Let this day be remembered. The day mortals fought the divine. The fleet answered with a single powerful message that echoed across the stars. For freedom. Engines flared to life. The Titan-class battleship Leviathan, leading the new Alliance fleet, turned toward the endless darkness of celestial space. As the jump drive engaged, the stars stretched into long lines of light. The ship's hull shimmered blue, its energy core pulsing like a living heart. And then, with a soundless burst of light, the Leviathan vanished into the unknown. The war had begun. The Titan-class battleship Leviathan moved through the dark void of space like a mountain made of steel and fire. Its engines glowed brighter than stars, pushing humanity's greatest creation toward the celestial domain, a forbidden part of the galaxy where only the gods dared to exist. Inside the ship, the crew was silent, their faces showing a mix of fear and courage. They all knew this was not just a battle. This was humanity's test before the entire universe. Commander Aaron Vale stood at the command deck, eyes fixed on the massive holographic map before him. The celestial domain looked like a sea of light, filled with golden fortresses and radiant fleets waiting for war. Each celestial warship was the size of a continent, and there were thousands of them. But even with such odds, Vale's voice remained calm. Helm, keep us steady, he said. Target the nearest fleet formation. Weapons, full power to the forward arrays. The crew moved quickly. The ship's heart, the quantum core, pulsed deep within, sending energy through every deck. The Leviathan was alive now, humming with the combined will of billions of humans who had built her piece by piece. As they neared the celestial front line, the enemy fleet began to move. Golden beams of light lit up the darkness, turning space into a storm of burning energy. The alien gods had arrived. "Commander," said Lieutenant Riva, "incoming fire on massive energy levels." Vale watched the sensors. The Celestials fired first. Their beams struck with enough force to melt moons, but the Leviathan's shields glowed bright blue, holding firm. The impact shook the entire ship, yet it did not break. "Return fire," Vale ordered. The graviton lances activated, launching silver energy bursts that tore through the black void. The celestial ships that were hit exploded like suns. Shock waves rippled across the field. For the first time, the gods saw human power with their own eyes, and it terrified them. High above the battlefield, the celestial overlord Seraph Corps appeared in his radiant flagship, the Aurelian Prime. His form shimmered like a living star, and his voice thundered through every communication channel. "Human Commander," Seraph Corps' voice echoed. "Your defiance is meaningless. You fight beings who shaped worlds from dust." Vale stared at the projection of the glowing figure. "Maybe," he said calmly, "but you forgot one thing. Dust learns to fight back." The channel closed and the Leviathan fired again. The battle grew fierce. Dozens of celestial ships surrounded the Leviathan, but humanity's greatest weapon was built for this. Its side cannons rotated, launching dark matter bombards that tore open reality itself. Each explosion created a black sphere that swallowed enemy ships whole. The once glowing battlefield turned chaotic as the gods realized their perfect formation was collapsing. Inside the ship, alarms blared. Power levels dropped. The engineers worked frantically to reroute energy from damaged sections. Chief Engineer Alina Cho's hands were covered in coolant fluid, her voice steady even under pressure. "Reactor temperature is stable," she reported, "but we're losing shield capacity fast. At this rate, we'll have 15 minutes before full failure." Vale nodded. "Then we finish this in 10. The Leviathan dived through the debris field, its thrusters cutting sharp trails of blue fire. The solar lance array charged along its spine, gathering energy from nearby stars. When it fired, the beam was pure sunlight compressed into death, slicing through 5 celestial ships in a single shot. "Direct hits," Riva shouted. "Enemy formation collapsing." But the gods were not defeated yet. Suddenly the stars dimmed. From the far edge of the domain, massive shapes began to appear. Not ships, but celestials themselves. Beings of pure energy, their size greater than planets, their forms glowing with divine fire. Each one wielded a weapon forged from the heart of dying suns by the core, whispered one of the crew. "They're here," Vale watched silently. He had known this would happen. The gods would come themselves to defend their rule. This was not just war now, it was legend. The Celestials unleashed their power. Blades of light cut through asteroids, crushing them into dust. Waves of golden fire slammed against the Leviathan, forcing its shields to flare and flicker. The ship shuddered as systems failed one by one. "Engineering report," Vale demanded. "Core output dropping." "We can't take much more," Alina shouted. "The core is overheating." Vale looked at the main display. The Leviathan's hull was torn, flames flickering across its surface. But the gods were still there, arrogant, unstoppable, and he knew humanity couldn't retreat. If they fled now, the Celestials would destroy Earth and every other human world. He turned to his crew. "Prepare for the final strike." "Commander, if we push the core further," Alina began. "I know," he said quietly. "Do it." The bridge fell silent. Everyone understood what was about to happen. The Leviathan's quantum core was the most powerful creation in human history, and the most dangerous. If overloaded, it would collapse into a singularity, creating an explosion strong enough to erase everything around it. It was a weapon of last resort, humanity's final answer. "Begin the overload sequence," Vale ordered. In engineering, Alina placed her hands on the console. Her voice trembled slightly as she whispered, "For Earth." Then she pressed the activation key. The ship's lights dimmed. A deep hum filled every deck. The quantum heart began to beat faster and faster, glowing brighter with each pulse. Energy readings spiked beyond measure. The Leviathan was becoming a star itself. Outside, the Celestials paused. Even they could feel the growing power. Seraph Corps' voice rose again, this time uncertain. "What are you doing, human? That power will destroy you." Vale's voice echoed across all channels, calm and steady. Maybe. But it will destroy you too. He looked one last time at his crew. Men and women from every part of Earth, united by one dream. Transmit this message to all frequencies, he said. Riva nodded and began the broadcast. Vale stood tall and spoke. To every world that suffered under your rule, humanity fights for you. We were born fragile, but we learned to build. We were born small, but we chose to stand. This is our answer to fear, and this is our light. The Leviathan's hull began to crack, blue light spilling from every fracture. The quantum core reached critical power. Seraph Core tried to flee, his ship tearing open a wormhole, but it was too late. The Leviathan exploded. It was not an ordinary explosion. It was a supernova of human will. The energy wave expanded across the celestial domain, tearing apart golden fortresses and scattering the light forms of the gods. Entire stars flickered out, replaced by silent darkness. The soundless roar spread through the void. Space itself bent, folding the battlefield into nothingness. Every celestial ship was gone. The gods had vanished. When the light faded, only silence remained. The Titan-class battleship Leviathan was no more, but its name had already become immortal. Back on Earth, sensors went offline for hours. When communication finally returned, the entire planet held its breath, waiting for a signal from the Leviathan. But no signal came. The command center fell silent. Some wept, others saluted. The image of Commander Aaron Vale and his crew would be remembered forever. The humans who dared to fight gods and won. High above Earth, the stars shimmered faintly. One of them flickered, a small pulsing blue light far away in the void. Scientists watched it with wonder. Could it be? One whispered. The Leviathan? The light pulsed once more like a heartbeat before fading into the endless night. The universe was quiet after the battle. The stars that had once burned bright around the celestial domain were now cold and dim. No golden ships moved across the heavens. No divine voices echoed through the void. The gods were gone. But so was the Titan-class battleship Leviathan, humanity's pride and shield. For days, every human world tried to contact the ship. Thousands of signals were sent into the empty stars, calls filled with hope, grief, and prayer. Yet no response came. The command centers on Earth, Mars, and Luna waited endlessly, their screens glowing with silence. Commander Aaron Vale, Chief Engineer Alina Cho, and the brave crew of the Leviathan were missing. Heroes whose final act had changed the galaxy forever. Weeks passed. Across the stars, the news spread faster than light. Billions of alien races who once bowed to the Celestials began to rise. Their chains were broken. The golden temples of the gods fell, and the people sang the name human with awe and respect. For the first time in galactic history, no one bowed to fear. The age of gods had ended, and a new era had begun, the age of humanity. On Earth, the world had changed. Cities that once competed now stood together. The Terran Union Council, formed before the final battle, became the center of peace and leadership for all humans. Statues of the Leviathan were built in every major city, tall shining monuments reaching toward the sky. At the memorial in Geneva, millions gathered. A hologram of Commander Vale stood before them, replaying his final message. We were born fragile, but we learned to build. We were born small, but we chose to stand. His words echoed through the crowd, filling every heart with pride. People cried and cheered at the same time. Humanity had done what no one else dared. They had stood against gods and refused to kneel. Meanwhile, far beyond the solar system, deep scanners on Mars detected something strange. A faint energy, pulse coming from a distant nebula, the same blue wavelength as the Leviathan's quantum core. At first, no one believed it. The scientists thought it was a ghost signal, a leftover echo from the explosion. But when the signal repeated, rhythmic and strong, it felt like a heartbeat. The council quickly formed an expedition fleet led by Captain Mira Solon, one of Commander Vale's former officers. She had served on the Leviathan before being reassigned. Now she carried his dream forward. The fleet, made up of new human cruisers and ships from allied alien races, jumped through warp space toward the Epsilon Nebula. When they arrived, what they saw left everyone speechless. In the middle of the glowing dust clouds floated a massive object, broken but still alive. It was Leviathan. Half of its hull was gone, its armor cracked and glowing faintly. Yet the ship's heart, the quantum core, still pulsed like a living star. Its energy formed a protective field around the wreck, keeping it intact. Captain Mira's voice trembled as she whispered, "By the stars, it survived." They sent drones to explore the wreck. Inside, the corridors were dark and silent, covered in frost. Human flags still hung on the walls. There were signs of struggle, but no bodies, just empty suits and flickering screens. In the main command deck, the crew found a glowing sphere hovering over the captain's chair, the ship's AI core. When activated, it spoke in a calm, familiar voice. Identification confirmed. Captain Mira Solon. Welcome back. To Leviathan. Mira's heart raced. Where is Commander Vale? She asked softly. The AI paused for a moment before replying. Commander Vale remains within the core. His neural pattern was absorbed during the overload. He is part of me now. The entire crew stood in silence. The commander had become one with the ship, his mind forever guiding the Leviathan through the stars. Back on Earth, the news of the ship's survival spread like wildfire. Celebrations filled the cities, but this time there was no shouting of victory, only quiet pride. Humanity had not only won, they had endured. The Council decided to restore the Leviathan, not as a weapon, but as a symbol of peace. Thousands of engineers from every allied race worked together to repair the ship. Even the Voron, the species once enslaved by the gods, came forward to help. Their elder envoy, Kale Tor, visited the shipyard and spoke to the human leaders. Your people have done what we dreamed for centuries, he said. You showed the stars that courage is not born of power, but of heart. We will follow your light. Humanity accepted them as equals. For the first time, alien and human engineers stood side by side, rebuilding something that would unite them all. Years passed. The Leviathan was reborn, its hull now marked with the names of every fallen soul who had fought in the Great Celestial War. The quantum core pulsed gently, almost like it breathed. And deep within, the AI, the echo of Commander Vale, watched over them. When the reconstruction was complete, the ship did not carry weapons. Instead, it carried hope. The new Leviathan became a mobile peace station, a place where species met, shared knowledge, and built trust. Human ambassadors traveled across galaxies in smaller Titan-class ships, helping rebuild worlds destroyed by the gods. The once frightened species began to call humanity by a new name, the Guardians of the Stars. But humanity did not grow arrogant. They remembered what the commander had said, that power without wisdom only repeats old mistakes. So they built schools instead of fortresses, research stations instead of weapons. Young humans grew up hearing stories of the Leviathan, not as a warship, but as a teacher. Its AI would sometimes speak to visiting children, telling them tales of Earth, of courage, and of the day humanity stood against gods. The universe, the AI once said, is not about who rules it. It's about who dares to make it better. A century later, at the edge of the known galaxy, an explorer ship discovered something astonishing: golden ruins of the Celestials' homeworld. But inside those ruins, there was no hate, no fire, no vengeance, only silence. The gods were gone, their light scattered. The explorers left behind a plaque engraved with simple words: "Here ended the age of gods. Here began the age of humanity." Back on the Leviathan, Captain Mira stood on the observation deck. The ship drifted quietly above a peaceful planet, filled with green forests and blue seas, a world once enslaved, now free. She looked up at the stars and spoke softly. "We made it, Commander." The AI's voice replied, calm and strong. "Humanity always makes it. That is what we do. A small smile touched her face. What now? There was a pause, and then the AI answered. Now. We build. The Leviathan turned slowly, its blue lights shining across the void like a beacon. Around it, smaller ships of different species followed, united, hopeful, free. And as the great ship disappeared into the starlit distance, a message appeared. On every communication channel across the galaxy, simple, eternal words that defined a species. We are humanity. We do not kneel, we endure.